Good morning. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Over the past few years, prosecutors in our office have unearthed and exposed deep-seated corruption in local, city, and state government. Today, together with our law enforcement partners, we expose yet another wide-ranging corruption scheme, one that is simultaneously local and global, and it is centered at the United Nations. We unseal today a criminal complaint charging 6 individuals with participating in a years-long corruption and bribery scheme. The complaint alleges that 4 defendants, representing business interests in China, paid at least $1.3 million in bribes to a man who was then the President of the United Nations General Assembly and the permanent representative to the UN from Antigua. His name is John Ashe. In return for those bribes, we allege, Ashe used his official position at the UN to advance the bribers' Chinese business interests. Much of the bribe money was paid and coordinated, we allege, through yet another UN official, Francis Lorenzo, the Dominican Republic's deputy permanent representative to the UN, who himself regularly received hundreds of thousands of dollars from one of the defendants. The complaint also alleges that Ashe himself, a U.S. permanent resident who lives in Westchester, evaded taxes on the bribes that he received. Although this case involves the high-flying world of billionaire business executives and influential UN officials, at its core, it was just a classic quid pro quo criminal scheme. Bribes paid in exchange for official actions taken. The 4 alleged bribers named in the complaint are Ng Lap Seng, the head of a major conglomerate in Macau with business interests in gambling and real estate, his chief assistant, Jeff Yin, Shi Wei-yan and Heidi Piao, representatives of Chinese media, technology, and real estate companies. As alleged, the bribers often worked with and through UN official Francis Lorenzo. And so what did these alleged bribers do for Ashe, then UN General Assembly president? First, they paid him money. Lots of it. From 2011 to 2014, they allegedly transferred over $1 million in cash and in wire transfers to Ashe's bank accounts in New York, often in installments of up to $200,000 or $300,000 at a time. As alleged, Ashe spent this cash lavishly on himself and on his family. $59,000 on a single order of custom-tailored suits, $54,000 for a pair of Rolex watches, and $40,000 to lease a new BMW. But Ashe took more than just cash. Sometimes he got paid in other ways. He also allegedly had the bribers pay for a luxury first-class vacation for himself and his family, having them pay for the hotel in New Orleans at over $850 a night. He even asked them to pay a contractor directly to build a $30,000 private basketball court at his Dobbs Ferry home. But that wasn't all. As also alleged, Ashe had Lorenzo get Ashe's wife a $2,500 a month job from an NGO that defendant Ng, controlled for close to 3 years, supposedly for serving as a climate change consultant. So that's the alleged quid. What did Ashe do in return for all these bribes? What is the alleged quo? As described, Ashe repeatedly took official actions in his capacity as a UN official. One series of actions was to help advance a plan for the building of a multi-billion-dollar UN-affiliated convention center in Macau. For certain defendants, Ng, Yin, Lorenzo, Ashe repeatedly promoted the convention center project. Among other things, that included arranging for various UN officials to travel to China to support the convention center, and even introducing official UN documents supporting the project, documents drafted word for word, allegedly by those paying the bribes. Ashe also submitted one such document to the UN on June 5th of 2013, just as he was allegedly receiving over $150,000 from 2 different NGOs controlled by Ng that had put Ashe and his wife on the payroll. For other defendants, namely Shi Wei-yan and Heidi Piao, as described in the complaint, Ashe similarly took many official steps to advance the interests of the Chinese businessmen with whom Yan and Piao worked. Major companies in the media, security technology, and real estate seeking government contracts in Antigua and in other places. Among other things, Ash allegedly set up meetings for these executives with senior government officials in Antigua and Kenya to help them try to land multi-million-dollar government contracts. As part of these efforts, Ash allegedly used some of Yan and Piao's bribe payments to pay other Antiguan government officials who could help with the government contracts, sending over $150,000 of the bribe money to the then Prime Minister of Antigua. Also, while taking in over $1 million from those schemes, on top of his salary from the Antiguan government, we allege that Ash filed U.S. tax returns reporting a mere fraction of his true income. If you take a look at the diagram to my right, you see it lays out basically what I've described in the complaint. You have the two sets of bribers, Sang Yin and Lorenzo, and on this side, Yan and Piao, money going to the former president of the UN General Assembly, as we allege in our complaint. For what purpose? With respect to these alleged bribers, to promote Chinese business interests at the UN, including the multi-billion-dollar conference center at Macau. And on this side of the chart, with respect to these bribers, promoting Chinese business interests in Antigua. And here you see how we allege that not only cash payments and wire transfer payments were made to the former General Assembly president, but also things like automobiles, the basketball court, and Rolex watches. As you may appreciate, an investigation and prosecution like this requires great partners and a lot of hard work. I'm joined here today by our partner in this and so many other important cases, the FBI, represented here today by Assistant Director in Charge Diego Rodriguez. I want to thank Diego and all those at the FBI who have helped make today's case possible. They work on every case, and especially this one, tirelessly and in a way that everyone in the public should really, really appreciate. And I want to thank in particular FBI Special Agents Jason Alberts, Ryan Carey, and Jared Wells, as well as Supervisory Special Agent Jared Whitmire. I'm also joined by Manny Muriel of IRS Criminal Investigations. I want to thank them for their work on this investigation as well, and in particular Special Agent Sheldon Tang and Supervisory Special Agent Kenil Legister. Finally, I want to recognize the men and women, the dedicated career prosecutors from my own office who worked so hard on this case to date. Assistant United States Attorneys Dan Richenthal, Rahul Mukhi, and Janice Eckenberg, supervised by Arlo Devlin Brown, the chief of my office's Public Corruption Unit. Let me conclude by saying, if proven, today's charges will confirm that the cancer of corruption that plagues too many local and state governments infects the United Nations as well. As alleged, for Rolex watches, bespoke suits, and a private basketball court, John Ash, the 68th President of the UN General Assembly, sold himself and the global institution he led. United in greed, the defendants allegedly formed a corrupt alliance of business and government, converting the UN into a platform for profit. I think people know by now that we will continue to do everything we can to root out public corruption, whether we find it in the City Council, in Albany, or, as here, in the United Nations. Let me make clear also that this investigation continues. There's a lot more work to do. And as we investigate further, we will be asking the question, is bribery business as usual at the UN? Now let me call to the podium FBI Assistant Director in Charge, Diego Rodriguez.
Thanks, Preet. Good morning, everyone. Today, the FBI arrested former United Nations President John Ash, Dominican Republic Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN, Francis Lorenzo, Ng Lap Seng, also known as David Ng, Jeff Ying, Yan Shirwei, also known as Sherry Yang, and Piao Hungel, also known as Heidi Park, on charges including conspiracy, bribing a United Nations official, falsifying U.S. income tax returns, and conspiracy to launder money. Today, we are also sending a message to those who come to the United States from other countries with corruption plans and bags full of cash. No one is above or beyond the law. As this case is alleged in the complaint, there are two different schemes with payers and payment receivers. While Ash served in roles as United Nations ambassador for Antigua, and Barbuda and the 68th President of the United Nations General Assembly, he used it as a place to personally enrich himself and his family. Ng and his assistant, Yin, paid Ash to advocate for Ng's business interests and contracts with the government of Antigua and Barbuda. Additionally, Lorenzo facilitated payments for support of a real estate project of Ng's in Macau, China. Ng and Yin were also noted to travel to the United States with bags packed with hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash on multiple occasions. This is not your typical carry-on for legitimate business trips. Yan and Park were also payers in another scheme, facilitating payments to Ash on behalf of Chinese businessmen. Ash made it very clear in emails and documents that he could use his access to the Prime Minister and other government officials to set up meetings and promote contracts for businessmen who were willing to pay. He also made his business bank account numbers very clear in emails. It doesn't matter if it's millions of dollars or just hundreds of dollars. There is no level of acceptable corruption. Public corruption is and remains a top priority for the FBI, and we have continually proven that no individual or organization is too big or powerful to be immune from prosecution. The support the FBI receives from our partners in federal, state, and local law enforcement is invaluable to our cases. In this instance, I would like to thank the Internal Revenue Service for their assistance in this investigation. Thank you to Chief Rich Weber, Acting SAC Tom Bishop, and ASAC Manny Muriel. Many thanks, as always, to our partners from the Southern District of the United States Attorney's Office, Preet Bharara, Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel Richenthal, Raul Mulkey, and Janice Eckenberg. I would also like to recognize the diligent and dedicated work of Special Agents Jason Alberts, Ryan Carey, Jared Wells, Supervisory Special Agent Jared Whitmire, and ASAC's George Kazami and Ed Finnegan. Thank you.
Thanks, Diego. Now let me call to the podium Manny Muriel of the IRS.
Good morning. My name is Manny Muriel, and I'm an Assistant Special Agent in charge with the New York Field Office of IRS Criminal Investigation. Voluntary compliance is the foundation of our nation's tax system. It relies on the premise that anyone who has to file a United States tax return does so timely, accurately, and honestly. The honest taxpayer's confidence in the tax system depends on everybody paying their fair share, regardless of their position, wealth, or prominence. As the law enforcement arm of the Internal Revenue Service, IRS Criminal Investigation is responsible for investigating criminal tax fraud and related crimes, including money laundering. The IRS enforces the nation's tax laws, but also takes particular interest in cases where individuals allegedly abuse the power they've been entrusted with for their own personal benefit. Our expertise as financial investigators takes IRS special agents into investigations involving all kinds of willfully unreported sources of taxable income, both legal and illegal. I emphasize that illegal sourced income, including bribes, is in fact taxable and must be reported. I am pleased to stand here with my colleagues from the United States Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This investigation exemplifies interagency collaboration and the United States' commitment to combat the abuse of power and to elevate transparency and accountability. I look forward to having more to say at a later date. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Happy to take some questions. Yep. I think it's reasonable. The question was, are we looking at where all the money went in connection with the charges against two of the defendants a few weeks ago? I think it's reasonable to assume that we're looking at all the money. You follow the money. We're not linking up that complaint with the current complaint, but we're proceeding on the current charges, and I wouldn't say anything beyond that. Yeah. There's no allegation at this point that the Chinese government is involved. You know, there are 6 defendants, and with respect to each of them, I think there's a different interplay of issues, of legal issues involving immunity. 5 of the 6 are either United States citizens or legal permanent residents, and as we do with any case that involves something of this nature, we take care to make sure that we understand what immunity issues may arise. We don't think any immunity issues would arise in such a way to prevent the current charges. And obviously, we do all of that in consultation with the State Department. And I'd rather just say that as opposed to going through each one by one. Yeah. Yeah, we describe Lorenzo, and you can quibble about how someone is identified, but in paragraph 16 of the complaint, he has been the Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations for the Dominican Republic. With respect to your second question, the complaint outlines in some detail meetings that were set up with respect to the issues relating to Antigua, and separately in the complaint, there's a lot of discussion about things that happened with Macau. Obviously, the question of how far along someone got is somewhat unfair given that we brought a criminal action. Common sense tells you that when somebody or a group of people pay, as we allege, at least $1.3 million, it's not for nothing. I guess that's possible, but generally it's not for nothing. And we interjected ourselves at a certain time, and obviously that has an impact on what ultimately can happen with respect to a bribery scheme. And the last thing I will say is, this is early in the investigation. We're only at the complaint stage, and there's a lot of investigating that continues to have to be done, and a lot of interviews that still need to be done. So we don't know yet. It's possible we've only scratched the surface with respect to what kinds of official acts have taken place. I'm not going to speculate about what those may be or if there are any, but I just think it's important to emphasize that we're early, and there was a lot of money paid for something. Yeah. I'm not going to comment on potential charges against any particular person. What I have said, I think more forcefully than I sometimes say, is that it's early in the investigation, and we expect to be looking at a lot more things. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about who we've talked to or worked with beyond our fabulous partners at the IRS and the FBI. Yeah, I don't want to go into how the investigation unfolded. You're assuming, for example, that the investigation was overt. I'm not going to comment on either negatively or positively on who is doing what and who is cooperating in what way. Yeah. I'll answer that question the same way I answered that question before. To repeat, I'm not going to make comments on any particular person and whether that person, I don't think I've ever done that in 6+ years. That's one thing that I haven't been accused of. That's a second way of asking the same question, which was nice, but I'm not going to comment on who may be in the crosshairs, who will be arrested. I'm just saying, as I said, I think twice now, it's early, we're looking at a lot of things, and I wouldn't be surprised if you would see other people charged. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. Was that his residence? Yeah. Was that his residence? Yes.
Thanks, everyone.